Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Devotions. Pastor Steve here walking with you in Revelation. The Revelation is about Jesus, and so we keep our eyes fixed on that because as we venture into these next chapters, we're going to need to keep our eyes fixed on Jesus because as it starts unpacking what we call eschatology, what end times, and kind of bizarre things, we got to keep our eyes fixed on Jesus. That's what we do in life. The bizarre things in our world, the circumstances of our lives. Keep our eyes fixed. It's about Jesus. And what is he doing this day? He's woken you to this day, and he is walking with you continually. And what a blessing and a promise that is. Let's keep that promise close at hand. When you walk through, this is a type of literature that we're going to get into here. It is apocalyptic literature. Apocalyptic literature flows between, and it kind of straddles the fence of figurative language and literal language. There's things and visions that are given out, especially in chapter 6 as we have here. You can open up your Bibles to chapter 6. You get to see visions. You get to see what John is realizing and what is being revealed to him. This in chapter 6 is the seals on the scroll. This scroll is what is to come. And so what is to come is it's talking about an end time, or it's talking about apocalyptic times. It reveals some realization of the chaos of our world, but it also takes breaks. It's amazing how God reveals this. He puts us out here and saying, whoa, what is good? This is too much to handle. And then he gives another vision. Make sure that our eyes are fixed once again, because chapter 6 is all about revealing these seals, what is to come. Not great things are to come, but then chapter 7 comes and gives us a nice little pause and being able to say, yeah, but wait. God is with us. Here is the promise. Here is your reality as a believer. And then it goes into the next cycle. We're going to see that there's 3 cycles in Revelation. The seals, as you get to have here, and then we get to have the censers. Let me kind of pick that up here real quickly. I have that written down so that I know better. The seals, then the trumpets, then the censers, the bowls. As we follow in these cycles, and that'll make sense as we go forth. But right now we have these seals that is going to be broken off of the scroll that was in the right hand of God, but now is taken. Who is worthy to open it? Jesus. Keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. He has it in his hand. He's the one opening it, knowing what is to come, but continuing to give his promises to his people. So Revelation chapter 6, let's walk through the first 6 seals. That is chapter 6 as we walk together. So verse 1, chapter 6 of Revelation. I watched as the Lamb opened the first of the 7 seals. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures, if you remember that's around the throne and really kind of symbolizing but also pushing us to be able to see that the gospel is calling this forward, one of the gospels. Then I heard one of the 4 living creatures say in a voice like thunder, "Come." I looked, and there before me was a white horse. Its rider held a bow, and that bow is always symbolizing military might, earthly warfare. So this rider is holding warfare, military might, and he was given a crown. Now I want you to maybe underline or take note of the reality of given in Revelation. So all of these things that are revealed are given authority, are given their bow, are given the crown, are given, so you know that there's an authority greater than what is to come in these seals, in these trumpets, in these bowls. And so take a look at that given, but he's given a crown. Now, I want you to understand that crowns are used differently in Revelation as well. The crown that is here is Stephanos. Now, Stephanos in the Greek is this different crown than what we got to see as the divine crown, the crown that the elders are wearing, the crown that is going to be seen in chapter 19 that the rider in the white horse is wearing, not in 6. The rider in the white horse is Jesus in 19 because he's the victor's crown. This crown is, yes, a victory crown, but not divine rule. Might have a short season of victory, that's Stephanos, and this other crown that we're going to be talking about later is, and we talked about earlier within the elders, was a different crown named in Revelation towards kind of divine rule. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, because this was given a crown. Okay, victor crown. What are they victorious? Maybe things of this earth, but not in the heavens. And he rode out as a conqueror bent on conquest. And so we get to see this kind of tyranny coming from, and this is where we get to see that apocalyptic literature. John is being revealed that some things that are to come is going to be tyrannical power. Where is he sitting right now? He's sitting out in Patmos, exiled out onto the island because of a tyrannical power called the Roman government. So be aware that there's things that come contemporary and also figuratively. So I'm going to keep that balance with you. But this is talking about, hey, there's a horse, a white rider that seems like he's in victory, seems like he's gotten a short season of victory, the Roman government, and he's bent on conquest, bent on tyranny and military might. Okay, so that's happening contemporarily, but also it happens in the history of our world. Verse 3, when the Lamb opened the second seal, did you get that? When the Lamb opened, Jesus, when he opened the second seal, I heard the second living creature say, come. Then another horse came out, a fiery red one. Its rider was given power to take peace from the earth and to make men slay each other. Warfare. From a tyrannical power towards what happens into that way, authority has to be exerted. There is going to be bloodshed. There is going to be warfare because authority needs to be had. So you get to see these building on one another. To him was given a large sword, the destroyer of peace. That's what this rider is going to bring. So there's going to be tyrannical government. There is going to be warfare. You get to see he's building on each other, but oh, great things. Thanks for opening these up. But this is the chaos that is truly reality within the world. Verse 5, when the Lamb opened the third seal, I heard the third living creature say, come. I looked, and there before me was a black horse. Its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hand. Now, you have to understand scales, especially with Old Testament prophecy. Scales, not just prophecy, but also narrative, is this. When you would weigh something, it had to be important. And so when they started weighing food in the Old Testament, that means that there was a famine about to happen. When you're weighing money, that means that there's economic upheaval. So as it says here, its rider was holding a pair of scales in his hands. What is to come? Perhaps a time of famine and a time of economic upheaval. That's what happens in tyrannical government, warfare, and then what's the implications? There's a scarcity. What happened to the land? What happened to the people? As we get to see in verse 6 here, it says, then I heard what sounded like a voice among the four living creatures saying, a quart of wheat for a day's wages. All right, people could survive on a day's wages. It's scarce. Denarius, as we get to have, is a day's wages in the New Testament. They could survive, but it would be a day-to-day survival. So there's scarcity. It could be like a famine, but they're able to survive, but it's scarce. And 3 quarts of barley for a day's wages. 3 quarts of barley this is a slave's meal. So it is dialed back quite a bit. So it's really speaking to this famine. And do not damage the oil and the wine. What would happen in famines, that people would destroy certain crops, oil and wine, so that if there's a scarcity of it, guess what would happen to it? It would rise up, inflate up, so that they would actually be paid more, right? Because there's scarcity, so the people wanted it and needed it, so they would pay more for these crops because there was a scarcity of it. They would destroy them, have the inflation go up. Then they could afford, the people that were getting the money from their scarce crop would then get the money so that they could actually pay more, since grain is going to go up and famine is going up. It's a type of survival. So you get to see the ramifications of, here is tyranny, here is warfare, and what brings that about is upheaval. Upheaval of people's lives, and how do they actually survive? Verse 7, when the Lamb opened the fourth seal, I heard the voice of the fourth living creature say, come. I looked, and there before me was a pale horse. Its rider was named Death, and Hades was following close behind him. They were given power over a fourth of the earth to kill by sword, famine and plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. So, excuse me. As you see, the four horsemen of the apocalypse, that's what they're called. There's many art about this, writings about this, but the four horsemen of the apocalypse, they work together to bring about, right? To bring about an effect. The seals are opened. This is the way the world operates. And this is the interesting thing, and I think marvelous thing about Revelation. It doesn't hold us back. This revelation should be like all like pink roses, and you have just these glasses on that you just see everything great. That's not our world. There's sin and chaos. And God brings that forward. He said there's going to be tyrannical power. There's going to be warfare. There's going to be famine. And as we get to see here, there's going to be death. There's going to be life taken. It's not just going to be all great. And he puts this sign, this revelation before people, and kind of get beat down by it. But God continues to, in the midst, once again, who's holding that in their hand? The Lamb, Jesus. But as we go forward in the next videos, we get to see that he wants to give us an understanding that in the midst of this chaos, there he is. In the midst of these things that will come, he's still in authority. He still is reigning. In the midst of the craziness of our life, he's going to keep our eyes. He's actually going to give us the opportunity to be able to see, yes, the chaos of our world, but more importantly, keep our eyes fixed on his promises, his revelation, his authority to bring about salvation in the midst of this chaos. And so don't get beaten down too much. Yes, it's just a video, but tomorrow we get to go forward. The next video we get to go forward and get to see God reveal once again what is happening in heaven. Here it does happen on earth, but what happens in heaven? Heaven and earth. What does that kingdom look like as we walk forward? So take this piece today. There is chaos. There is things that happen in our world that sometimes are out of our control, but everything is in control within God's hands. And so take peace, brothers and sisters. God is reigning. He is sitting on his throne, and he is continuing his promises to you this day in his Son, Jesus Christ. Have a blessed day living in those promises.